Hi there, it's Carl Irwin, the Common Magician, and I've got something interesting to show you as usual. I've got a deck of cards here, and it's a pick a card trick. Pick a card trick, why not? Go ahead and pick any card you want, doesn't matter what it is. Let's say you take this one right here, and that is the, what is it, the Seven of Clubs. Now, it would not matter if I knew what your card was. It wouldn't matter at all. But you could do this in such a way that the card is unknown. What we're going to do is very, very interesting. Okay, if you watch very, very closely, what happens? We lose it inside the deck, don't know where it is. Just watch this very, very closely. Don't take your eyes away. You can see that it cuts on its own directly to the Seven of Clubs. Now, this is an interesting trick that I actually saw on a YouTube channel, Card Trickster 52. It's obviously the haunted deck. I only brought this up. This came out about a couple weeks ago. I saw this. I thought it was fascinating. I'd never seen that kind of a method for the trick before. But I thought it was interesting enough that I kind of investigated it a little bit more. And I was interested because someone had recently asked me about my favorite methods for the haunted deck. And I will link to that presentation for you on here. But I want to point out something that after you look at that, you will understand this a little bit better. This is a relatively impromptu rendition of what that is, using a borrowed deck of cards. Again, how often does it happen? But we like to know that you can do this. And it doesn't have a gimmick that is in play, meaning that the cards can be given out, they can be used, they can be inspected. You could do this and then have the cards looked at. There's no strings or anything like that, although I have nothing against loops and invisible thread. As a method, when there are many impromptu methods that use invisible thread, and those are great too. But this is much more contained to the cards themselves, and it does use kind of an add-on. Now, on that presentation on the YouTube channel, on Card Trickster 52's channel, he creates a gaff that, let me see if I have one here. I thought I had a deck of cards here with it. I think I put it. Oh, here it is over here. It's a gaff that looks like this. It's a card with a little notch in it, and this little notch acts as a fulcrum to pivot the cards on. So, for example, if the card is going to be the Four of Hearts, we place that in the deck. And he has some really good controls. I really do invite you to watch that video because he's got good controls that are kind of, they self-place all of this stuff. You don't have to be so obvious about cutting it in. You can place the card right in, and the act of placing the card into the deck actually puts the a gimmick in place. But the idea is that with that notch on the back, whenever I press on the cards with this hand, it will cause the cards to pivot. Let me make my gimmick a little bit stronger. I did use this a couple times, so that caused it to get a little bit out of whack. Here we go. Okay, so now watch. Whenever I press on it, that little fulcrum from that notch that's cut out, whenever I squeeze the back corner, it allows the cards to cut. So it does require that you have to stabilize the cards and hold it on the end. But I just thought this was so fascinating as a gimmick. However, I'm kind of the person where I don't like to have one-off gimmicks in the deck. And, you know, I'm not the kind that would like to go use one gimmick just for one trick. I'd rather have, if I'm going to have a gimmick in the deck, a gaff of some kind, I want it to be something that's very versatile and get used a lot. So, like I carry, some people carry a short card for that reason, or carry a breather crimp for that reason, or I carry a double thick card for that reason. This is not that kind of a gimmick. This gimmick is a one-trick pony kind of gimmick, but it's a very good one. So it got me to thinking, how could you accomplish this sort of feat And again, I'm not going to explain this very closely because it's already been done. You can go to that video that I'll link to. I wondered, how could I do this so that I could introduce that fulcrum to the deck without having it on a card itself where I have to ring the card in or out. And I could do it with a borrowed kind of situation. And I came up with this. It's a paper clip. It's a paper clip, but what I've done is I've taken one little tip, about 1 millimeter on the very end. See if I get close to the camera there, and see if I can get it to focus on this. I've got one little tip right here. Put some white behind it, maybe. My lighting's not very good for this. I put a little kind of crimp right there on the end of the paper clip, so you can see what that does. Now, what I do with this is I can take the paper clip then and put it on any card, any indifferent card, like so, and you can see that you have that little tip of the paper clip sticking up. And if I angle this up like this, now I have it, what I did decide on is I put it on the larger side of the paper clip. I used the end of the larger side rather than the smaller side, so that it would give a little bit more grip and stability to the bottom of the card. Specifically for these plastic cards, I use plastic cards almost exclusively. For paper cards, I found that you can accomplish the same thing with a very, very small paper clip. It grips paper cards a lot better. So this might be the way that you'd want to go. It takes up a little bit less space. But if you put it on there and you angle it like this, you can see that the tip is sticking up, and it puts the fulcrum in the same place as would be on the gaff card. And then the end of the paper clip is kind of down here at the corner where you can grip. Now, what I did here in this presentation, which is not really well refined, but as an example or something for you to experiment with, I start with the paper clip on the bottom card of the deck. And you do the pick a card, have them pick a card, and then it's a simple matter of having them look at the card, and then you can place it, cut the deck, place it onto the original top, and then set the gaffed, or rather the gimmicked card on top of that, such that the fulcrum pivot point is behind, and then you square everything up from the opposite side. Squeeze together over here, and then you can bevel and kind of give it a slightly messy appearance. So I bevel forward and then bevel the top back so that you kind of cover that up. And it doesn't have to be very clean. You just want to make sure that you don't see any gaps anywhere, and that this side of the deck over here is square. You want this to be square in this end so that the card that has the gimmick will pick up the cards that need to pivot. And then it's a simple matter of grabbing down here and squeezing very gently without making any kind of major muscle moves over here. And as you squeeze, it will cause the top of the deck to rotate, just as with that other gimmick. But anyway, this was an idea to use a paper clip to create that fulcrum point. And the nice thing about this is that you can just take it away. So at any point, you could just strip it off, pass out the cards, and you can ditch this and get rid of it. The focus is on the cards. The cards are examined. Everything's examinable. How could you get this into play? Well, I mean, you could play around with putting it onto a card covertly, maybe while they're looking at a card. One ruse I like to do things in the open and on purpose, is I could lay the cards down in a spread and say, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take any random card out of the deck, and then I want you to go ahead and take a look at it, and I want you to show it to everybody else. And what I've done is, as I pick it up and I'm looking at it, I just place the paper clip on and I motion show it to everybody else, make sure that they can see it, okay? And could you do that now? And then they take a card, and as they're taking a card, you're holding on to the now clipped card, and then it's just a matter of placing this back in on the bottom of the deck as you collect up. And then you can cut this into the deck, put it on top, cut it down to the table. Whatever you want to do, you can experiment around with the nuance with this. But anyway, just an idea about the haunted deck using that really, really eloquent solution from Card Trickster 52. So paperclip for haunted deck. Now, I don't do the haunted deck very much. My answer in the comments section a while back Just I think a week ago, someone asked about that. What do I think about impromptu versions of the haunted deck or methods for the haunted deck? My answer was I enjoy only really the impromptu ones, and usually those are the methods that use crimping as a means to create a gravity method. And you can really only do this with paper cards, but it's a matter of taking the deck and crimping the bottom half of the deck. So I put a bridge in like that. I've crimped half the deck, right? They get the card, see what it is right there, the 6 of hearts, and then placing it in above that crimp. And then there are some gravity kinds of presentations where if you hold the cards like this, and it helps too if the cards are really, really flat, they're not warped. This is an older deck. But if you hold it such that the top of the deck is well suctioned to itself, in some cases you can kind of get it to follow a gravity fall off of that crimp. So you just hold it slightly, and you can see that it will separate at that spot, and then you can show the card. But as you can see, this method is very cumbersome, and it's kind of easy to see. Unless you have people kind of standing back from you and you've got some separation there and you make it really, really visual, you have to do it in the hand. You have to tilt the cards. It's kind of like the haunted key, right? Where, wow, that's a round object rolling over. I just can't imagine. It's not like, having something that's a square and having it tip over by itself without touching it. With that haunted key mechanism, there has to be some kind of gravity element to it in most of the variations that are out there. And there's a sense in which it's a little obvious as to what is sort of happening with it. This method is kind of like that until I saw this, and this really, really kind of checked all the boxes for me in terms of accomplishing it in an impromptu manner using an additional element that maybe could be added to the deck, a borrowed deck in use. So if I would say, what is my favorite haunted deck method? I would say an impromptu one, probably something like this. I give it to you to refine a little bit more, not something I'm going to play around with much more than that. But anyway, just an idea for you to check out. Based on that open tutorial from Card Trickster 52, go ahead and check that out. Subscribe to his channel for more content. So there you go, haunted deck. Best of luck with this. Happy magicking.